The next thing that we've got to do is cut off some of the excess seam allowance from around the neck and also from the armholes. Now this will mean that when we turn the dress through the right way, it won't be too bulky on those seams. You want to leave about 5 millimeters of fabric between your stitch line and where you cut away. So don't get too close to your stitches though, and certainly don't cut through them. There. So now we've got to turn the dress through to the right way. So put your fingers through and start to pull the fabric through to the right way. Now, I don't know why, but I really enjoy this bit. It's quite exciting seeing it all come together. It's a little bit fiddly. And, oops. So it's beginning to look a little bit like a dress now. And before we do any more sewing, it's time to get back to the ironing board. So the next thing that we're going to do is sew up the side seams of the dress. So lining up the side seams, and again right sides together, we need to pin them into position, so keeping the armhole seams lined up, carry on through, pinning together the lining as well. So now's the time for sewing. And starting with a few back stitches, whiz up the sides of the dress. Same as before, whiz up the opposite side. And then back to the ironing board to press open the side seams. The next step, which is step 11, is to put the button placket in. Now earlier, when we sewed round the neck hole and down one side, but the other side should still be open, and this is where the placket's going to go. So take the open side and turn it back out to the wrong way, so that the right sides of the lining and the fabric are together. And then, taking the raw edge that you zigzagged together earlier, we need to sandwich this between the lining and the back of the dress, so it nestles in there. And you need to make sure that this is as close and as snug to the top as you can, and keep these edges lined up. So once you're happy with the position, you pin into place. So you're going through 4 layers of fabric in total. So 2 of the placket, 1 of the back of the dress and 1 of the lining. And to mark where we're going to sew from and to, we're going to sew from the top down 20 centimetres. So get your tape measure, measure down 20 centimetres, and I usually mark this with a pin, though you could use a bit of tailor's chalk if you rather. And that should leave about 1 centimetre or so of placket tucking out the bottom. Sew down to the mark you made earlier. Turn it out the right way, and if it's all been done correctly, then we have a nice little step of fabric poking out from the centre back seam. Once we've done that, we're now going to sew up the centre back seam. So turn the dress out, inside out, and line up your seam. So once you've got that pinned into position, we're then going to sew. So you'll see that your stitch line that you've just made meets the one that you did earlier with the placket. Now we've got to stitch together the back seam of the lining. Now there's only a little bit here, and we need to sandwich in that placket as before. So pin together, sew up to where it meets the other fabric from before. So there we can see these two lines of stitching almost meet. As if we turn it out the right way, there we have it. Now let's turn the dress out to the right way, see what it looks like. Not bad. You might like at this point to strengthen the bit here at the bottom of the placket. It's a bit of a weak point when the dress is on and off, so a little bit of zigzag stitching just at the very bottom can make that much stronger. So the next thing that we're going to do is turn up the hem. So it's a good idea to have a child on hand.
I've got lots of hair.
This is Tilly. And
And that's my mum.
and Tilly's my daughter. And so once you have a handy child, you can check the length of the hem and adjust it accordingly. Now the dress is designed to be just above the knee so that it looks rather great with jeans or on its own. Once you've decided on the length, fold the fabric over twice at the required length and stitch around. So once you've been all the way around the hem and the two lines of stitching meet, now's the time to do the same thing with the lining. Now the final touch to the dress is to add the buttons. Now I know that not everyone likes putting on buttonholes, but it is worth persevering, and I would urge you to get a scrap of fabric to practice on a few times so that you can get it licked, because it's really worth knowing. But if you can't get on with it, there are always other ways around the issue. You could sew poppers on the inside, and if you like the decorative effect of the buttons, then pop those on the outside. So they're not for using, but they look pretty still. So you need to decide how many buttons you want to put on the back of the dress. Now there are 5 in your kit, but 3 looks quite nice and is the easiest to space out because we've 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom, and then measure in between to get it nice and balanced. And you want to position the buttonholes so they're about 1 centimetre in from the sewn edge. So mark these points with some tailor's chalk or pins. So then move on to putting the buttonholes on. Now that varies from machine to machine. Now on the one that I've got, it's got a special foot like this which works out how to space them automatically. But you might find that you need to set yours manually. And if all works out well, you should end up with some buttonholes like this. Now with a sharp pair of scissors or an unpicker, you can make the openings in between. And that's where you use as a guide to line up where to sew your buttons on. And that's the final bit. That's it. So once the buttonholes and the buttons are in place, one gorgeous Clothkits Peekaboo dress made by you.